All right, so I think we are just about ready to start. Somebody drop a reminder in our groups or WhatsApp group so the others can join in. So we said we're going to look at Animal Farm. All right, so I think we all right. Right, so we're looking at Animal Farm and 4 poems we said, right? Did we specify what? Did we specify what?
No, we said anyone.
All right, good. Let me just quickly clear up this audio issue on YouTube because I'm hearing a feedback. Oh, it was you. Probably your. Yeah, probably I heard myself through you. All right, good. So yeah, good night, everybody. The persons who are joining us on YouTube, good night. I'm doing a class with my English B students, and I decided to go live, so it can probably benefit other persons as well. We are revising Animal Farm, and we have scheduled to do 4 poems. We didn't specify what those 4 poems are, so let's look at some. Let's look at 4. Let me see. Randomly. Is a constant image of your face. Constant image. Face. In the exam, you don't have to write the entire thing out. You can just say it is the constant and put the eclipse, and you will be perfectly understood. What else we want to do? Let's do a stone's throw. Yeah, my voice is gone. I know. I had a very exciting football match moments ago, so I'm still recovering from that. A stone's throw. What else we can do? Give me any suggestions? Come quickly, man. Give me 2 other suggestions.
Decorum Est
Decorum. Shit.
and Mirror by Sylvia Plath.
And mirror, okay. Shit. Decorum. S and mirror. All right, we're gonna settle on those. Good. So we're talking about Animal Farm and those 4 poems. And let's just quickly talk about the format of the exam for the persons who are joining us. Let me see who those persons are on YouTube. Jatalia. My niece name is actually Jatalia. Melissa, Matthew, good night. All right, so the format of the exam. So English B has, and it's something I like to say a lot for students not to be surprised. English B has 3 sections: drama, poetry, and prose. Those are the 3 sections of the exam. In each of those sections, you are expected to answer 1 essay question, or you're expected to write 1 essay. So in the entire exam, in the entire English B exam, you are writing 3 essays in that 2 hours and 40 minutes, roughly around there. Confirm the timing for me, somebody on a paper, on a past paper. So in that timing, you're going to work out 3 essays. So if I remember correctly, it equates to 43 minutes per essay. So you have about 43 minutes to write an essay. And if you write 10 words every minute, roughly around 430 to 450 words you will write in that time frame, right? That's ideal for a decent essay, right? So in the prose, in the drama, you have a few options. What are the current texts in the drama? We are looking at a Nancy. What are the other options? I really don't know. What are the other options for the other students? Nobody knows? I think it's 12th night. Whatever it is, usually it's a British text or some fancy English and the West Indian version. So somebody's telling me, good night, Elva. Yeah, and the poetry, you have 20 poetry, 20 poems. 20 poems. 20 poems. In the prose section, you have quite a few options. You have an animal farm. You have the 10 short stories. And then you have another option. What is the other book called? Letitia, I think it is. So usually you have lots of options in the prose. Let's just put that there. I can't spell her name, so I'm just gonna just leave that there as that. So what is this trying to tell us? Despite how many options you have in each section, you're still only doing one essay question. All right? So you're still doing one essay question. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Well, right. 12 night is which one? The prose or the drama? I think it's the prose, right? I think it's the drama, right? Let's confirm
Yes,
that.
sir.
Right. So
That's
even
drama.
okay, right. So even if you have Anansi and 12th night, whichever one the questions seem easier to you, or which one you think you can handle more, that's obviously the one you will choose. The 20 poems, this one here, I want to zone in on this one because some students still don't get this here. All right, so let me just spend some time. Let me just spend some time to talk about this. There are two questions here. Two questions under the poetry section. One question will name two poems. The second question will give you a theme, will give a theme, and you're expected to answer. You have the option of choosing one of the two. So in every section of the exam, you have options. Unfortunately, if you are preparing for just Anansi and Animal Farm, you don't have an option because you will have to answer that question, right? But if you're preparing for Anansi, you prepare for Animal Farm, you should know Anansi very well. You should know an Animal Farm very well, right? So you have lots of practice, right? You have lots of practice in that. Let's come back to this poetry part. Again, the first question will name two poems. They will say, in Once Upon a Time and in trying to compare to. So let's say, obviously, in Dulce at Decorum Est and This is a Dark Time I Love, we see love being involved in war. They name two poems there for you. When you write your essay must, if you choose to do option one, must involve those two poems alone. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
If you choose to do option two, they will give you a general theme and you can use any of the 20 poems to answer that general theme. I don't think students understand that. Let's say, for example, we say, people can often affect others. Write an essay in which you show how one person's action can affect another in two poems you have studied. Any of the 20 poems that you study can be used to answer that second question. Any one. Now, some poems will easily do that than others. That does not mean that is a right poem or a wrong poem. There isn't. You choose any of the 20 poems that you can remember and clearly express the thoughts of the poem to answer the question. Remember, this question is not about recalling what the poem is about. The question is to talk about what the poem is about in answering the particular question that you're given. And really, if you can predict, in fact, let me tell you, the questions are often the same. I don't know if your teachers tell you this, but the questions are really the same questions. It's the same question over and over. So let me just show you what I mean. And go and look at the past paper and you will see. The first question will, the first part of the question, the three-part question. The first part will ask you to tell briefly about the circumstance or the situation that's happening. The second part will tell you to explain what is happening in one more than the other. So they might ask you, how is this one person affected in one? Or how is one person's action affected by the other person in one of the poems? Something of that nature, but they will ask you to zone in on one of the poems in the second part. And the last part of the question is always going to ask you to discuss poetic device. We call that the writer's craft. You cannot get a grade 1 in English B and not know how to explain devices. So when the device is used, all of these parts, all of these essays you write, you have to talk about devices. Everyone. In the drama, you have to know dramatic devices. In the poems, you have to know poetic devices. In your prose, you have to know narrative devices. You have to know your device for everything. The last part of every question will ask you about device. So it's really the same question over and over, right? So you have to prepare your mind for it. And if you can prepare your mind for it, you're going to predict. And if once you can predict what's coming, you're going to ace the exam, right? So again, one question will name 2 poems, and the next one will tell you that, hey, it's a theme, and choose any 2 poems you've studied and work with that. Now, I want to say something, right? And this might come back to haunt me, but I'm going to say it nonetheless, because we're going close to crunch time. If I just told you this, that is a second question in the exam that will give a theme, and you are supposed to use any 2 poems to answer that. Of that 20 poems that you've learned, really, if you know 2 poems by heart, you are going to answer that second question. And once you can apply those 2 poems by heart to answer the question, you are going to ace the exam. I don't want to say only learn 2 poems, but what I'm going to tell you is what I told my students. As you go closer to the exam, ensure you know at least 4 poems by heart that you can talk about even if somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night. Because once you can use 2 poems to answer this question, you should be able to ace that question. You think you understand what I'm saying there? Do we have any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Let's check on YouTube what's happening there. I see Risa saying 12th night, Elva. Aditya, what days are your live streams? This is quite impromptu. So just keep subscribed. I can't tell you what my schedule is, not so organized right now to tell you exactly when I'm going to live stream. So you just keep being subscribed, and whenever I go live, whenever I teach online in the middle of the night or at any time, I'm going to go on YouTube, right? Maybe I can probably try to send a post quickly a few hours before if I envision I'm going to go live, but it's largely going to be impromptu. All right, so just be subscribed so you can get those updates. Good, so let's talk about Animal Farm. So let's talk about animal. I have posted a video on Animal Farm. You guys saw that on YouTube. I mean, it's much of what we have talked about in our classes, so it really wouldn't benefit you much because you have heard those things already. But let's talk about Animal Farm. Who wants to walk me through the story of what is happening in Animal Farm? The more you do this thing, the more you talk it, the more you learn it, right? So just remember that. Who wants to go? Come on. This is the book we had lots of fun with. So, anybody?
Sir, there's a farm filled with animals, and those animals are being mistreated and exploited and overworked. And so until finally they decide to have a revolution sparked by Old Major, which is a respected boar. And once they have the revolution, these two pigs, Napoleon and Snowball, assume power. However, Napoleon has opposing ideas with Snowball, and ultimately Napoleon drives out Snowball, and basically it circles back to the old type of leadership.
I like you. I like the fact. I like the fact that you said it circles back. That's just beautiful words, and that just shows us that no matter how much we try to rid ourselves of certain characteristic, it comes back to haunt us. Everybody, I'm sure, at least Guyanese, hear the statement from our parents, what fall from head must touch shoulder before it touch the ground. Or the apple don't fall far from the tree, and things like that. Have you heard those statements before?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What were our parents trying to tell us? In the context of Animal Farm, what are they trying to show us? Come
That
on,
people become
talk.
the very thing they hate.
People become the things they hate. People become the things that they once stood against, right? So let's look at Animal Farm. They created, or Old Major gave them these 7 commandments. And these 7 commandments are supposed to channel the way they live. And as a result of these 7 commandments, they are supposed to live happy. They're supposed to have this animalism, this animal ruling animal, and they're supposed to be good because they saw the human as the hurtful one, or the one that is against them living well. But what do we see? What do we see here as they drove out the humans? The pigs became the very thing that they once stood against. And that's very sad. And if I were to ask you, if you were all to become leaders in your various country, I know many persons are watching from different Caribbean countries, if you become a leader of your country, you're obviously going to see some sort of example of the type of leadership that you want to become, or the type of leadership that you don't want to become. And as you get older and you become a leader, and all of you are going to become leaders in your own spheres, as you become a leader, you have to try very hard to not become the thing that you hate. And it might sound easy, but when you start to do certain things, the pressures become real. Any of you think you can withstand the pressures that will come when you become a leader?
No. No.
I'm happy I heard no. I'm happy I heard an honest response. Sometimes the pressures are too great. let me show you this. In fact, let you tell me, let me not do the talking here. You tell me one instance in that book where the pigs were given a very unfortunate situation and they had to make a tough decision. And the decision that they had to make involved communication with the outside world. Can you remember any of such decisions? Anybody on YouTube, you can also type it in. It's a bit biased of a question because I'm looking for one thing in particular. Again, I'm asking, can you remember any situation in the novel where the pigs were given an unfortunate situation and they had to either stay enclosed in this animal farm or they had to communicate with the outside world for betterment? Can you remember any such situation?
Sir, I think it was when they needed to get tools and materials to build the windmill.
Right. They were in a challenging situation where they didn't have enough resources to do what they were supposed to do. And they were pondering whether they were supposed to go and trade or not at all. And Old Major, one of his rules was that you were not supposed to trade with the humans. Right? You remember that? Remember there was also an incident where Napoleon was basically shafted, where he was treated unfairly by giving a wrong currency by one of the persons he traded with.
Yes, sir.
So that again proves the point of Old Major that you should not make trades with the humans. Because according to them, the only good human is a
dead one.
A dead one. So how the CXC exam will come is like this. They will make a statement quoting, the only good human is a dead human. Identify two situations where the presence of human proved harmful. Of those two situations, say which one would have negatively impacted the farm more. Tell me two situations where the presence of human seemed harmful. Hi, Altia. I'm happy to have you. Miss Ali Cock from QC. Yes. Yeah, tell me two situations where the presence of human seemed harmful. Come on, I get more interaction in class. Don't be shy. It's just YouTube. They don't know you. They can't see you. It's just your voice. Let's go. Nothing? Look at how this started. Who was the first person? Yeah, the Battle of Bloodshed. Cowshed, rather, exactly. How the book started. When you had, firstly, you had the presence of the farmer. What was his name? Farmer
Jones?
Right, Farmer Jones. Now, Farmer Jones himself, the presence of Farmer Jones in this farm was a hurtful one. Who was Farmer Jones? He assaulted the animals. He abused them. And that shows you quite similar to what happens in the Caribbean. When our Caribbean men and women, I'm going to stress on men more for obvious reasons, consume alcohol and they return home and they're drunk, what do?
Be their wives.
They beat the vulnerable. They beat the persons who cannot really defend themselves. What did Farmer Jones do here? When he returned home, he abused the animals. He didn't feed them. He neglected them. He assaulted them, right? And what happened? That birthed that what? That drive for
The first rebellion?
Yeah, the first rebellion. Then later on, what happened? The other farmers thought that, you know what, this farm cannot possibly be doing so well. We can probably get a piece of this, and they attempted to get control of Animal Farm. So when they saw the farm was doing well, they also wanted a piece. And again, the presence of the farmers somewhat halted the progress of the animals. Now, this story, we don't want to understand this story as just talking about a play. We don't want to understand the story about talking about animals on a farm. We want to understand this thing from a realistic point of view. The animals on the farm are the people of the society. The leaders of the farm is the government of society. The government, in the sense of Mr. Jones, is doing what? Shafting the people. Please don't write in the exam. Please don't write shafting in the exam. Please don't write shafting in the exam. But the government of the day seems to be abusing the people, misusing the people. And what happened? The people get tired. People always get tired. And what will happen when people get tired?
They rebel.
There will be an uprising. And when the uprising happens, some persons might die. Who is Zoom user? Please change your name to your first and last name. Right. So that's one thing. But let's look at it again from the government perspective. Tell me two things that we can learn from this book about the Caribbean society. That's how the CXC question will come. Two things that you can learn. Two positives, two negatives. What can you learn about the Caribbean society from this? Anybody? You can just give me one.
Sorry, you're breaking up. Please repeat.
I'm asking, the question is going to really ask you to tell about two instances of something. What are two things we can learn from this book about the Caribbean society?
How our governments can sometimes change laws to benefit themselves.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Our government, and we spoke about this in my class at length, and I know exactly where Selena is coming from with this. But we're going to talk about those specifics here. But generally, governments make laws to control people. And sometimes, in fact, most times, that control is supposed to be a good thing. And there are other instances where that control is not going to be a good thing. In this instance, the government of the day realized that, you know what? One of the law was that animals were not supposed to sleep in bed. All right? They were not supposed to go into Jones' house at all. But the pigs realized, you know what? We are better. And because we are better, we need a place so we can focus on governing. So what they did firstly, change the law to separate them from the others and to do the very thing that they were supposed to not do. So we see one instance there of where the government can change the law to benefit themselves. And what do we call that? What's a theme for that? What do we call that? Where the laws are corruption. Very good. Corruption. That's corrupt. That's an act of corruption. So We have Ali Cox saying, power can either be used to better others' life or, well, yeah. And I'm happy you mentioned that. Because imagine you have power. Power, what is really power? Anybody can define power for me in your own words. Define power.
A state of being in control.
Control. The ability to influence someone to do something that they want to do or they don't want to do. That's power. And true power really puts a person in a position to either change their life or to become worse off, right? So take, for instance, Snowball. Snowball, with that power, ventured out to do the fundamental teachings of animalism to make sure that all animals had a good life. If Snowball was around when the windmill was erected, the plan for the windmill was to provide electricity for the benefit of all the animals to keep them warm. But what happened? Snowball was driven out. The windmill kept building over and over. But the animals did not see the reason for why they were working so hard. They were working harder than they were working before. And I will tell you this, sometimes people will not acknowledge that things are worse off just because it's you. What do I mean by that? At start, the animals were saying what? At least it's not as bad as the days of Jones. They were not eating as often as they used to eat, but they say, at least we are not in the hands of the humans. And they continued like that throughout the book. Things became worse than in the times of Mr. Jones, but still they kept saying, at least we are not in the hands of Mr. Jones. So really, what is the purpose? What's the point? What's the point of all of this? Is it just because we don't want to be in the hands of who we think is the enemy? Or is it just we just want to have freedom to do our own thing? What do you think? Which one is better? Now, let me ask you a situation. If in your own home, your parent gives you the opportunity to make a decision, and when you make that decision, you realize it was a bad decision, would you admit it's a bad decision? Or are you going to be very happy that you had the ability to make the decision, even though you know the outcome was horrible?
I admit it's a bad decision.
Admit it's that's a proper thing to do. That's how we mature and grow. That's how we become better as leaders. But these animals here were ignorant. And I'm using the word ignorant to mean what? What does the word ignorant mean?
Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. The animals were ignorant of the fact that
That they were
what?
still being exploited and things were the
They
same.
were being exploited.
They were doing worse than before.
That they were doing worse than they were before, exactly. So they were being exploited. But you know what? I just had a very good thought. Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly how it was in my head. But I'll tell you in person. Some people don't mind doing worse, you know. They just don't want to do worse under certain people. You get where I'm coming from with this?
Yes, sir.
Let's think about the followers of Napoleon and the followers of Snowball. Let's just happen to say these persons had followings. And think of your own Caribbean country. Let's say Napoleon's followers were being ruled by Snowball. They would have hated the fact that they were being ruled by Snowball. So everything that Snowball did would have been horrible. But they would have, in the same circumstance, being ruled by Napoleon, will say, you know what? At least we're not under the rule of Snowball. We're bad, but at least we're not under the rule of Snowball. Is it the same thing happening in our Caribbean society? Yes. The followers of certain political parties, it happens all across the Caribbean, blindly are led by their political leaders to be abused and taken advantage of, while the leaders are the ones who benefit from the wealth of the countries. Does that sound familiar? Is that what's happening in Animal Farm?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you don't want the answer, that doesn't mean it's not true. Just imagine it. Just
Sir,
imagine it. They kept saying what?
sir,
At least we're not in the hands of Mr. Jones. Yes, Liverpool.
I just got a point from you. You said 2 things we can learn from this book about the Caribbean society. So one point I pulled from your explanation was the working class are exploited for their labor and not rewarded enough. Could that work as a point?
Yes.
Okay.
You said 2 things. That was
and
one.
The second one was our government can change laws to benefit themselves.
Yes, yes. Good. I'm happy you're able to make the connection. Yeah, so people oftentimes rather suffer under who they relate to and ignore the fact that the other man or the other leader could have made their lives better. Mr. Jones might not have been such a bad leader, but they would not dare take back Mr. Jones. Why? Why? Because at least their leader is their own, and we wouldn't possibly be mistreated by our own. Sounds familiar? Y'all don't want to answer, and I know why. This is why we like to have this conversation in school, because it's a more closed environment and you're free to express yourselves. Oftentimes, people would not want to admit certain things, but the truth is the truth no matter who speaks it. And in this situation here, the animals did not mind suffering under the pigs because the pigs were like them, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. But what happened in the end? The same 4 legs that they saw as good became what? 2 legs good, 4 legs good, 2 legs better. What happened there? Come on, talk to me. What happened there?
They changed the rules.
Laws were changed again to benefit the people who were in power. Power is a nasty game. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Because with power, with governing, with politics, you have the ability to really transform the lives of people. Snowball had the ability, Napoleon had the ability to change the lives of all the animals on this farm. But what did they do? They kept the sugar for themselves. They kept the warmth for themselves. They were not actively involved in the labor. They were eating the best of food. All of these things are things I'm going to tell you to write down. So these are examples of what we are talking about. They kept the best of foods because they said that the pigs needed the energy to think and to do all this book work, while the working class people of the animal farm were forced to do all this physical labor. Does that sound familiar? Look in our Caribbean countries. Oftentimes our political leaders make more money than the average people working more hours. Is that right? No, I don't want to commit you by saying anything, but I'm just asking you to think about it. English B is really the studying of life, studying how one thing affects a particular person and how ultimately you can make better decisions by studying the life of these people you're studying in these books. So English B is very critical to learn, right? So I'm asking you, really, if you think about it, our governments are changing laws or making new laws, oftentimes to benefit themselves, when they have real power to transform the lives of real people in their environment. In this instance, it's one of those bad decisions that will lead to the ultimate death and destruction of the normal working people. But let's look at some of the people in this story quickly. When I say the people, I mean the animals, right? Donkey and Boxer. Let's talk about Boxer quickly. Boxer was a dunce. I keep saying dunce, like if it's a good thing. But he was arrogant, and he was ignorant. He lacked knowledge. And as a result, he was exploited. How many of you are good at one thing? Is there a talent you have that you're very good at? I wouldn't ask you what it is, so just answer. Is there something you're very good at? Yes, no,
No.
no. There's nobody who's good at something? Designing,
more like-
organizing. What's that, Matthew?
It's more like you're not you're not like totally good at one particular thing, but you're not bad at everything either.
Oh Lord. Is there something? Y'all must stop being modest. Acknowledge yourself. You are good at multiple things. Is there something you're good at? Stop being modest.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we're all good at something. It's called talent. We all have it. You might be good at organizing, decorating, something you're good at. The point I'm trying to make, whatever you're good at, never do it for free. Make money off of it. Never make, and that's a bit contradictory because I am going live on YouTube and doing this for free. So that's a bit contradictory. But
Sir, you're
the
paid
point I'm
officially.
making, I'm being paid by it's not a great lot. I could have probably be making more. But the point I'm making, you're good at something, don't do it for free. Boxer was extraordinarily good at physical strength. And because that he was that very good, and because everybody knew he was that good, what happened? Was he applauded for his strength? What happened to him? Come on, talk to me.
So he was used.
He was used and abused. And then when he was no longer able to be physically strong, what happened?
They sent him to a slaughterhouse.
They killed him. They got rid of him. If you're not going to take away anything from our class tonight, I'm going to tell you this. When people can no longer benefit from you, they are going to discard you. That is why I'm saying to you, when you're good at something, never do it for free. And if we were in class, I would have given you a joke there. And I'm quite sure you could figure out what my joke is. But because we are on YouTube, we have to behave ourselves.
Don't worry, don't worry. You got it later.
I'll need help. All right, good. So the next time we speak about Animal Farm, we're going to speak about the devices. So now we spoke about the themes generally. We see corruption. What else we see? Betrayal. What else we see? As themes.
Their manipulation.
Manipulation. What else we see? And who was the master manipulator? Who was the spin master?
Squealer.
Who you want to be your lawyer if you were ever in trouble?
Squealer.
Squealer. Squealer would make you think that everything that you learned was wrong. Imagine the sheep, they were the dunces of the dunces, if this is actually a word. They were just retarded. All the sheep knew and were able to remember is what? What the sheep were able to remember?
2 legs bad.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad. That's all they know. And let me show you how governments will work. And you will tell me this is true in your Caribbean countries. I am telling you, our political leaders read this book, Animal Farm. They read it, and they're using the ideas of animalism to control our people. But we don't talk about that tonight. I don't want to get a letter by any government. But I'm saying to you, can you think of any instance where, all right, let me tell you that first, and then you will tell me if you can think of any instance or different Caribbean country. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. The sheep represent the most retarded of the people. Hardworking, lower class people that have very little education. And they're just going to be easily manipulated by whatever they're told. They will believe anything they're told. So the sheep, all they knew, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Coming down to the end of Animal Farm, the book, what did they do? Because they knew that the pigs were now walking on 2 legs, and it would come as a surprise very soon, what did they do? They can change the wall, the writing on the wall, but the sheep will always be saying what? 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And what did they do as a result? To make sure the sheep is on the same part. Come on, you got to be quick on this. What did they do?
They changed rules to 4 legs good, 2 legs better.
No, but how did they do it? They had to control the sheep. They had to control the people. How did they do it? In this animal farm.
Sir, they separated them from the rest and basically indoctrinated them.
Exactly. They separated the sheep and then they taught them a new song. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. So now the sheep, when the sheep see the pig walking on 2 legs, the sheep will sing the new song. 4 legs good, but 2 legs better. And where are we right now? Right back at square one. Humans in disguise. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The more things change, the more they remain the same. That can be a nice introduction to an essay in the exam. The more things change, the more they remain the same. Identify 2 situations in the book Animal Farm where the more things change, the more they remain the same is presented. One of it, walking on 2 legs. Another one of it is what? You tell me. Animals being reduced to working long hours with little food. What else? Tell me, talk to me. You can't think of anything else?
Oh, so you repeat what you said, breaking up a little bit.
I'm asking you to tell me situations where the more things change, the more they remain the same. Situations where you get that theme. No? All right. I'm sure you'll sort it out for the exam. Good. Moving on. So next time we speak about Animal Farm, we're going to talk about it from the perspective of devices, right? Our narrative device, we'll discuss that in next time. Before we meet that discussion, I'm sure we'll post the next video where I will discuss the devices in that video. So if you can look at the class, the recorded session, you get a heads up. And then we'll have a more light discussion. I want to have more persons take part in discussions, right? You don't have to call your name. You should be free to say what you want to say, all right? Because really the issues presenting in Animal Farm are the same issues that we are dealing with in every Caribbean country, every single one of them. We are being treated with the same food, the same dish. Good. Let's move on now to our poems. Take a water break and come back. We'll start with the constant image of your face. Dennis Brutus, I think it was. Take a water break and come back. On a side note, while we resume, how is your preparation going for the exam? We can be candid. How is the preparation going? Nervous, not nervous, what happened? Nerve-wracking?
Very nervous.
Very nervous. Yeah, it's like that.
Very
It's
much
like
so.
that. I'll tell you what, when you're closest to your biggest accomplishment, you feel as though you're not as though you're not gonna make it. What I will tell you, little adds up. Keep doing little by little by little, it adds up. You will get over that line. Just keep ticking over, little by little by little. Rome was not built in a day. The ark was not built in a day. In fact, I think the ark took 120 something years to be built. All right, so it just shows you big results big accomplishments take time. So allow yourself to flourish, allow yourself to grow and to develop, but you got to keep going. You got to keep ticking over. Mhm. I know you're going to do well. I know that you put in the work. And if I can promise you something, God never sees hard work and reward that hard work with failure. It doesn't happen. You get out of life what you put into life. So I promise you, put in the work and you will get the result. I can promise you that. Good. So we're talking about is a constant image of your face. So here's what's going to happen, how we're going to go about this session, and the same thing will happen in the exam. You will tell me about the situation in the poem. You will tell me how that situation might have affected a person, and then we will discuss a device, right? And we'll do the same thing for all 4 of the poems. Tell me what the situation, tell me how that situation might have affected a person or the persona, and you're going to tell me how the device was used. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So constant image of your face. Dennis Brutus. Is a constant image of your face framed in my hands as you knelt before my chair. Yada, 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 whatever else Dennis is saying after that. And Dennis goes on to show us what? That is the image of this woman's face that made him do what he did. So what is happening in the poem? What's the situation here? Quickly. Come on, guys, you writing this exam?
Sir, it's basically like this. The author Dennis has a sort of love for his country and a woman, and he has to choose like between the 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. And what happened as he chooses between the 2 of them? Who did he choose at the first instance? And who did he choose in the end?
Sir, at first he had chose his country, but then eventually he chose the woman.
Right. So at the start, the indication to us is that he was choosing the country. He was going to, you know what, leave this woman and go to war. And then in the end, we see the dilemma or the situation where he actually chose the embrace of the woman. When you are answering in the exam, you have to quote a particular line or quote a few words to support the part you're choosing, right? So what's happening? He's presented with 2 situations. Go and fight for this country by choosing to love the country, or to stay in the embrace and choosing to love this woman. Boys, what will you do?
Pick the woman.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, Matthew.
That moment is key.
Sir, you could always move to the next country. Can't go on the same one.
Well, it depends. If it's a red woman, that's dangerous. If it's a red woman, you can choose the woman and she can still give you blue. Or bun or horn or whatever they say in the Caribbean.
Or who say you can't do the, you know, what is a different place, you know, what you saying?
Oh God. Anyway, the point is, he has chosen this woman. And as a result, he thinks that his decision is treason to his country. What is treason?
Sir, like a sort of act of violence towards your country, kind of.
Betrayal?
It's not just that. Both of those are soft. Treason is the greatest act of betrayal to a country. Something that is the unforgivable sin that you have committed to a country. You know what's give me an example of the act of treason to any country, Is that just a crime? A crime is you stealing $5. That's a crime. Stealing is a crime. But treason is stronger than that. What's treason? What's the greatest act of treason in any country?
So like either burning the flag or leaking government information to another country.
Nah, man. That's not good enough. What's the greatest act of treason to any country?
Sir, like killing its governor?
The president. The president. The greatest act of treason is an attempt to kill the president. And that is the unforgivable one. Anybody will be either killed or lost away in jail for something like that. So if this guy is comparing, choosing this woman to treason against the country. He is saying what? The love that he has with this woman is what made him make this decision to stay here or to fight with her or to live with her. And when he has taken that stance, it is as if he's committing treason against the country. He's committing a great crime against the country because he has chosen to be in bed or be in love with this woman and not fight for his country. Making sense?
Yes, sir.
Our device. We see personification. We see personification in the sense of what?
He refers to the country as a she.
He refers to the country as an actual human being. So it is as if this country is an actual person and he is seeking the love, going and fight for this country. And therefore, when he's justifying the love that one would have for this country. And therefore, when he commits a crime against one of the persons he loves. Are we there?
Yes, sir.
Good. How is the situation in the poem affecting someone? Come on. How is the situation affecting someone? Who are the two persons mentioned here? Personified or not? Come on, guys. Okay, let me help you. So we have a situation where the man is presented with a situation of him choosing or having to choose between two persons. One is a metaphorical representation of the country as one of his lovers, and the other is the actual embrace of a woman. In one instance, he is choosing to go and fight for this country. And then in the end, he actually chose to stay in the embrace of the woman. You can go on to explain if he had chosen to go and fight, his personal life suffers. his love life suffers. The woman is either going to have to choose someone else because he would obviously die at war, and then he does not get to live to experience love. And if he actually chooses the woman, his country suffers. You got the point I'm making? He can't do both. He has to either choose his personal life or he chooses the life of defending the country. And if we were to ask what you would do, would you go on to fight or would you go on to go with your love? What would you tell me?
I'm going with my love.
But before you can go with your love, Macho, you actually have to have a love, huh?
Sir.
You should be the last one talking.
Oh no, you didn't. You didn't go there. All right. So yeah, he chose to go with the love, and as a result, his country's right. And the device is personification, where they personify this country. They personify this country to be an actual person, as if he was choosing between two girlfriends or two lovers. And as a result, one of the lovers were hurt by the decision made. I'm not teaching you to be unpatriotic, but to be honest, at some point, we can't be the only one loving our country. Our country has to love us back. And I'm saying that because I really do mean that. I love my country, and I'm sure everyone loves their country. But as you grow older, you'll get to understand that we can't take the love for our country to the bank and have a deposit. We can't take the love of our country to the bank and get some money to go buy milk for our children or our lover. So our country has to love us back by give us something in return. And if that doesn't happen, we have a problem. Hint, hint. All right, I'm just saying. Good. So that's that.
Sure.
Any? Yeah, go ahead.
I thought in the end he ended up loving the both lovers equally or almost the same. I didn't know
No,
he chose.
no, he didn't. Well, let's go to the words then. Everybody has the poem in front of them.
Yes, sir.
Read the last stanza.
Yet I begged mitigation, pleading guilty for you, my dear, accomplice of my heart made, without words, such blackmail with your beauty, and preferred me such dear protectiveness that I confess without remorse or shame my still fresh treason to my country, and hope
Right.
that she, my other dearest love, will pardon me freely.
Right. So he's confessing without shame that he's choosing one. And he's saying that he hopes the other love pardons him or forgives him for that fresh treason. Treason to whom or to what? Treason to my country. Yeah? So that's your proof that he has chosen the embrace of a woman. And he's saying what? What is the reason he is choosing that woman? He's saying it's the blackmail of your beauty. Have you ever seen somebody and you're like, wow, that person is so perfect, gorgeous, handsome, beautiful. I know that's what you think when you see me.
Sir,
Right?
excuse
I beg to differ, sir. I beg to differ.
So-
me, sir. As
Go ahead.
if she offers him this sort of protectiveness,
Mm-hmm.
that he feels protection when he's
He's been-
in her.
So, yeah, the blackmail of your beauty, but she offers that protectiveness exactly. Sometimes that's all men want, you know. Men need to feel as though you might think that, oh, the man is the one supposed to be protecting the woman. But when a woman can offer you some sort of peace, that sort of protectiveness, trust me, that's all you need in this life.
This way he's a scratch tea.
You know, my mouth itching to tell y'all something, but they're on YouTube, so I wouldn't. Oh, we gonna meet. We gonna meet.
Sir, have you ever had that protection? The protectionist?
Protect.
He
I have had, but that did not work out.
You're right. Woman deal with you, bad man.
I'll
You live in a
tell
sad
you
life,
what.
sir.
I'm living a sad life. Nah, it's not a sad life. I'm just protecting my peace.
Well, you know what peace, and you had the red one.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean,
So yeah, any other thoughts? Can you
No.
see that now, Liverpool?
I mean,
Yes, sir.
Right. So he has at the start he was choosing the country, but in the end, the woman's love, the woman's peace, the woman's protectiveness, the woman's beauty made him change his mind. And he was hoping that the country would forgive him. Forgive him for what? The treason. Please go and wash your mother wares, oh God. A stone's throw. Let's go into that one. Who's gonna read that poem for us? Somebody read it for us now. Somebody, anybody, a stone's throw. Who's on YouTube? The person's on YouTube, say something. Are you following? Are you making sense here? I see you have 10 persons viewing. Leave us a comment so we can see where you're at. Anybody's grabbing that poem to read for us?
Sir, I have the poem.
Go ahead.
A Stone's Throw by Emma Mitchell. We shouted out, "We've got her. Here she is. It's her, all right. We caught her. There she was. A decent-looking woman. You've had said. They often are. Beautiful, but dead scared. And not the first time, by any means, she'd felt men's hands, greedy over her body. But ours were virtuous, of course. And if our fingers bruised her shuddering skin, these were love bites compared to the hail of kisses of stone, the last assault and battery, frigid rape, to come off right, for justice must be done, especially when it tastes so good. And then this guru, preacher, God merchant, God knows what, spoiled the whole thing. Speaking to her, should never speak to them, squatting on the ground, her level, writing in the dust something we couldn't read, and saw in her something we couldn't see, at least until he turned his eyes on us, her eyes on us, our eyes upon ourselves. We walked away, still holding stones that we may throw another day given the urge.
All right. Thank you. So what's happening in a stone's throw? What's happening in a stone's throw? What are we seeing there? Anybody?
sir,
Sir, is where this woman was said to be stoned for a crime that she had committed, which was adultery. And it was like a complete sin in the eyes of the men.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
yes, sir. The poem is basically about the poem basically evolved around a woman she committed a sin and she were judged by hypocritical men. that saying that or sin that you committing is bad. They're saying that sins are good or bad, but basically we all know a sin is a bad thing. But they're saying that a sin is a good and a bad thing, and the one that she committed is bad. So now they're stoning her to death. Yeah, that's basically what the poem is all about.
All right, so the stone's throw is a pun. So we see a pun right off the bat. The pun is that we are all so close. If I say somebody's a stone's throw away, what do I mean by that?
Getting closer to death.
No, that's my somebody's a stone's throw away, they're close by.
Yeah, but a stone shouldn't necessarily mean they're close by.
There are two meanings I'm trying to show you. One is a pun. We are playing on words to mean that somebody or something is close by. He lives a stone's throw away from me. A stone's throw is to indicate to us that it's in close proximity. But if we are to take the actual meaning, throw in a stone, we are throwing a stone, we are showing us that somebody is very close to either having something dreadful or something horrible being done to them, or them doing some dreadful thing to someone else. So a stone's throw is indicating to us that sometimes we're all so very close to have something being horribly done to us or doing something horribly to someone else. You think you understand what I'm saying here?
Yes, sir.
Take from the instance of the woman. She was a stone's throw away from, literally and figuratively, a stone's throw away from having her life being dragged out of her brutally, or she was a stone's throw away from being persecuted or having something horribly done to her. On the other hand, the men who were beating her were a stone's throw away from doing this horrible sin onto someone. So we either a stone's throw away from doing something horrible to someone or to have something horrible being done to us. And a stone's throw, by Emma Mitchell, I think it was, is trying to teach us that society is full of hypocrites. And I hope I'm saying that, and I hope you are not a hypocrite in society. Because as we go through life, we will see sins, and there's no big sin and small sin. Sins are sins. But as we go through life, you'll want to understand that some people sin differently than you sin. And not because someone sins differently than you do means you will chastise and highlight their faults while you hide your own. Now that's deep. That's very deep. So I have to say it again. Not because someone sins differently to you means you will highlight their flaws while you hide your own.
But excuse me, sir. But sir, what can we do about that? That's a regular thing in society. People judge you and look at you, talk no at you, and they won't look at the whole situation, but they will look
That,
at you and judge you and now based on what you have done.
that's just how life is. And we have to learn that people will broadcast your own failure when they hide their own. So if you should find any solace in the fact that people don't talk their bad story, just remember that everybody has bad. They might not want to talk theirs, but they're going to highlight yours. So find solace in the fact that, you know what? They might be talking, I am ugly. I'm not saying you are ugly, but I'm saying they might be talking stories about you being ugly. Or you might not be the nicest duckling in the pond or the brightest cookie in the jar. But when you look at them, they have nothing going for them. But that's how people are. They would ignore their faults and magnify the little one that you have to make them feel better about their sad and pathetic self. So you have to learn very early in life not to worry yourself too much with what people say about you. Because nobody, and that's what Facebook does. Facebook is everybody's going to highlight all the good things that they've accomplished in life. Nobody will tell you when they are the weakest point in their life. Nobody will tell you when they're broken and down. Nobody will tell you when they're sad and miserable. But they're going to highlight their successes. And if you're going to always see everybody post their successes, you oftentimes can become defeated and feel as though you're not doing enough in your life. When you are fighting demons nobody can ever imagine. Don't compare yourself to others. Try not to do that. Going back to a stone's throw, we see what? This woman is being punished by men for some crime she committed. They claim she has committed adultery. And these men are punishing her. But if she committed adultery, what's adultery? What's adultery? Nobody?
It's like having sexual intercourse with someone who isn't your partner, like out of marriage.
Having sex with someone who's not you, who you're not married to. Good. So let's say somebody commits adultery. How many persons have to commit this adultery? One or two?
2 persons.
Obviously, nobody can sleep with themselves. So what happened? They're only punishing the woman. What can we see right there by that?
Sir, these men felt that they were superior to her.
Yeah, we can get that. That's
Hypocrisy?
what I'm looking for. Hypocrisy, yeah. They were hypocritical. They were not punishing the man. This is a backward, sexist society. They were punishing the woman for a sin that she committed with another man. They are not punishing the man, and they claim that when they touched her because she was their hands were virtuous, meaning their hands were true. We all can get the meaning from the hidden text there, that somebody among them might have been touching her for sexual gratification, but they consider themselves as the punishers, the persons who are always right. And this woman is often wrong. And she herself felt as though she was this person that deserves this punishment. What do you think is my proof for saying that? I'm saying she felt as though she deserved that punishment. What is my proof for saying that? Anybody? So when the guru, the Jesus, the God merchant came around, he met her on the ground, looking in the ground. And then he ended up writing something in the dust and made the people realize, made her firstly realize something, and then made her realize something about the others, and then made them realize something about themselves. The fact that she has to be made to realize it means that she did not realize it in the first place. She did not realize that these men were hypocritical. She had to be told that. So the repetition of eyes is a device. He turned her eyes on us, our eyes on ourselves. The repetition of eyes. The eyes is what we use to see. The eye is what we use to see. And with the eyes, we can see the faults as we can see the good. And so they're using the eyes here to show that she saw the thing that was bad within her. And then she saw also the sin that they were doing. And then Jesus, the guru, turned the eyes of the persons who were stoning her into realizing what they were doing. So they too realized the sin that they were about to commit. Are you following?
Yes.
Sir, sarcasm can be a next device in the poem too.
We'll get there.
But sir,
Mhm.
do you think they actually realized what the men were doing? Because it says we walked away still holding stones that we may throw another day, given the urge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they realized.
But they consciously chose to just ignore it, that they could come back and do whatever they wanted.
How you know they realized? What's the proof that they have realized it?
The fact that they walked away.
Exactly. But they walked away with those stones because what? They really did not learn. At that moment, they see how they were about to commit a sin because he highlighted that to them. But they did not change their ways. They did not stop their hypocritical ways. So if another day happens and this guru, Jesus, God merchant is not there, what's going to happen? They will do the same thing. Much like many of you here, when nobody is looking at you, you don't often do the right thing. But when somebody's looking at you, you attempt to do the right thing. Sounds familiar? Don't answer that. Right, so that's a situation. What is how is that affecting someone? It affected a woman. She was about to lose her life, but she also realized how her sin is not so different from the persons who were trying to persecute her. What's our device? Repetition of eyes. In the end, we see sarcasm. Is it sarcasm or is it really irony? What's the difference between sarcasm and irony?
Sorry, it's irony. It is the opposite of what something should be.
One thing is stated, the opposite is implied. One was sarcasm. One thing is stated, the opposite is implied, but it's attempting to ridicule or insult. Is anybody being insulted in that situation there?
Yes, sir. The woman, it's thought that she's physically good looking, but the sin she committed is ugly.
Okay. So you're taking the sarcasm from that perspective. That's more irony, right? Well, okay. Anybody else? Now, while there might not be a right or wrong answer, because you can always think of something in the exam to make a spin and actually make it fit, depending on how you explain it. You also have to try to explain it well, right? So though it's not just about identifying the device, but explaining the device well. So let me just tell you, if I didn't say it already, in the exam, you have to identify the device, name the device, give an example of how the device is used, then go on to explain how the device impacts the meaning of the poem. Those are the three things you have to do. Again, name the device, show how the device is being used in that poem, and then go on to show how that poem is affected by that device. So oftentimes, I don't know why students define the words. Students will say, oh, simile is used in this poem. And then they go on to say a simile is a comparison between two things using like or as. And I don't know, when I'm marking the exam, I'm like, huh? What's the relevance of this? I know you know what a simile is. Good for you. You're not going to get a mark for that. you have to find the device, mention a device, quote the way the device is used, like an old hog or something of that sort. A comparison with someone using like or as, that you mention the actual comparison in the exam. Don't just say it's a comparison using like or as. And then you go on to show how that simile affects your understanding of the poem or a theme of the poem. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
This is the part,
Yes, sir.
this is the part in the exam where students fall down. Mhm. They don't do well in this part. Anyway, a stone's throw. Yeah, that's that. Dulce, I'm getting tired. Dulce et Decorum Est. Let's talk about that. This Latin phrase means what? Dulce et Decorum Est pro patria mori. My Latin is horrible, so please don't correct my pronunciation. What is that line saying to us?
It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country.
It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. I don't know about you, but it's not sweet or fitting for me to die for anybody, much less the country. Because when I die, the country gonna move on. Are you willing to die for your country? Are you willing to die for anything? There's a Chinese saying that goes, oh, unless you are able to love a creature, not creature, unless you're able to love an animal the way you have loved yourself, then you have not loved at all. And I don't know, I guess I have never experienced love because I'm not an animal person. But can you say you have loved? Can you say you are willing to lay down your life for something you love? Anybody?
Yes, sir. Oh,
No,
Of
sir.
course.
No.
Let me guess. The right answer would be that you're willing to lay down your life for your mother.
yes, sir, of course.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but I'm quite sure that your mother will not want you to lay down your life for her,
No, she won't want that, but I will do it.
but you would do it. Okay, that's good. That's deep. I like that. Mhm. Good. So this statement is saying it's sweet and fitting to die for one's country. But when we see the actualities of what is happening in this poem, it is not sweet and it's not fitting. And it's really a lie that government, and again, we see government being involved, just like what is happening in Animal Farm. We see a lie being told to young men who are fighting for the defense of the country by their government. The government is telling these young men that, okay, go fight for your country. And if you die, it's a horrible thing. It's an honorable thing. It's an honorable thing to die for your country. You will die a hero if you die for your country. You will be glorified if you die for your country. And when we see the realities of how these men are killed, gas, quick boys, ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmet just in time, but someone else was yelling out and stumbling like a man dancing in line, or whatever what the words were, as a madman in line. Imagine the brutality of what is happening in the war is not sweet, is not fitting, is actually horrible. But these boys are not told this. In fact, they're told a lie by their government that it's sweet and fitting to die for the country. When the actuality, when the reality is that it's not sweet, and it's not fitting, and it's not honorable. Making sense?
Yes, sir.
What would you do? Would you go on to fight, even though it's not sweet and it's not honorable, even though it's a good thing? Because after all, The country, your land gave you life. So are you going to fight and defend your land that gave you life?
Yes, sir. It depends.
You are going to do that?
Yeah, the land that you're fighting for, where you from? Nothing to something.
Uh-huh. Well, I rather use strength because not me. Mm-mm. At all.
Sir, you are residing in the land since you're born. And you won't fight for your land?
You can say what you want to say, Fred. You're not going to change my mind. When I dead and gone, the land continuing. The land will remember me on Puppy Day or some one day when all the other martyrs were killed. And what happens? I still dead. What happened? Everybody go on. I don't experience love. I don't experience anything. But I dead and live, and you were living. The land continues.
No one comes to live forever, though. We have to go somewhere.
You have to go somewhere, so I have to hasten the mind. I can understand why you might to understand why you might want to do something like this. But no, I have too much ahead of me.
At least I ain't seen no future ahead of you.
What you said?
I ain't seen the airline.
Somebody was saying something just now.
I said I'm not seeing a future ahead of you. All I'm seeing is the airline.
You don't have to see any future ahead of me. I can see it clearly for myself. You, on the other hand, anyway, we ain't talking about that tonight. Anybody else in the class has an opinion? No?
But sir, isn't love may defined as giving, giving but not expecting anything in return?
You can define love how you want to define love. I saying a me willing to die for no country.
But sir, there's a thing you should be able to give up something without expecting anything in return.
Okay, well, good. I guess I will never experience love.
Sir, you already gave that type of love.
Oh, I already gave that type of love. Okay, so since you know all the love I give, I guess so.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I was once a person like that, you know. I was once a person like that, willing to put down my life and fight for country and stuff like that. And as I get old, I get to realize, you know what? This is working out. And then you get wiser. So while I'm not trying to poison your minds, I'm telling you, as you get older, things change. And when the world beats you up or people in the world beats you up, it affects you. And sometimes it affects you in ways you cannot ever repair. But don't listen to me giving advice about love because of my brokenheartedness.
Yes, I'm so emotional.
I'm sounding emotional.
Real.
Real emotional. Women like emotional men, you know. Copious secretion.
I'm gonna read one like you.
She likes me. That's why she's currently asking me to go back with her. But we don't traverse the same bridge we have crossed before.
Beautiful statement.
Anyway, so what's happening in Dulce and Decorum Est? Young men are being told that it's sweet and fitting to die for one's country. And as a result, they go off to fight for this country. They go off to fight this war. And when they go on the battlefield, they realize that nothing about this death that they experience is sweet or fitting. And they come to the realization that what their governments were telling them is a lie. And it affects them because they can no longer change their minds. When they're going to change their minds is when they're at the point of death. Make sense? What are we seeing here? We are seeing vivid imagery. When you're in the exam, almost every student is right, oh, imagery is seen as the device. Imagery, what is imagery? Tell me what's imagery.
It's the act of anyone of the five. It's the act of any one of the five senses.
You're using any one of the five senses. People often think imagery is only using sight. Don't go thinking like that. In fact, I have a video on YouTube here. The persons who want to go and look at that, go and look at the video on devices, Jamin Hatton devices, and you will see where you will understand that imagery is playing on any of the senses. Sight, taste, touch, anything you can say is a sense, imagery touches on that. So in this poem, we see almost all the senses being attacked, but we mostly see the sight. They're describing for us brutally what the realities of war is. And we see an absence of love. We see nature is dramatically affected. We see no sort of normalcy. We see no sort of love or affection in this atmosphere. And the sarcasm, the irony is the device I want you to zone in on. The irony is that the men are told that it's sweet and fitting to die for one's country, but when they're actually on the ground, nothing is sweet, nothing is fitting, nothing is honorable. All they're getting is a painful, horrible death. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Good. They often say it's a good thing to date a red woman. But when you're actually on the ground, it's a horrible thing, a painful thing. So I wouldn't advise that on my worst enemy.
So come on, man. But don't try to change your broken right now. We're in the class. I'm ready to one class.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, we'll stop there. The next time we come back, we'll do mirror. Yeah. So let me give you an essay to write for me. Let me give you an essay to write for me. And let me see my good students bring this essay for me to actually check during the week, right? Good. Go on to take a note of that. If I have any typo there, my apologies. I'm too tired. Yes, who's Eric Blair? I guess you were not in my class. As you would know, that Eric Blair is the real name of George Orwell. George Orwell is the pen name of Eric Blair. It's like, you know, when people get what's Beyonce right name? Where's Cartel right name?
Right name.
Adidja Palmer or Aditya Palmer, something like that.
Adija Palmer.
People get right name or what we say right name in Guyana or their book name or their school name, and then they have stage names. Eric Blair's real name is Eric Blair is the real name, while George Orwell is the stage name or the pen name. Huh? I guess you didn't listen to my recording. It's a nice way of figuring out who does listen to the recordings or not. All right, good. Any questions, any closing remarks from anybody before we go?
How do you remain so good
I
looking?
just
How do I remain so good looking? It's challenging. It's very challenging, especially when you have to deal with ugly people like y'all every day.
Huh?
Not to be
Sir, you
true.
want to put them back locks, right? Tell my can't be money.
I have no behavior, none.
Good one.
I hear you were saying something.
I said I enjoyed his class.
Oh, thank you. If you're ever in the vicinity, you can join one of our live sessions in school where we're more candid about the realities of what happens in literature. And certain things we can't say online because, you know, we don't know the government listening to us.
I would love to join one of
All right, any other thoughts? Any final words from anyone?
Love you, sir.
Oh Lord. You gotta stop with your succubus spirit.
I just expressing my love to you, sir.
Good night, Carice. Why you alive, girl? Like, wow. I thought you give up on this class, man.
Sir, Delmar is choosing you over his country. You should feel nice.
No, me want Delmar choose. Delmar gotta choose the girl that he get on a 1-2-1-2.
I remember that my expression is seen it earlier, but it's good to give love but not expecting nothing in return.
Are you putting my words against me?
Who is this boy?
I love y'all too. Just go write my exam and pass with a grade 1 and I'll remember y'all. Remember, English B is harder to get a grade 1 in than math. Huh? Careful. If I can tell you right now, if there is a grade 1 in this class, there are a few, but some of you have to work harder. I have seen better essays earlier in the year than right now, closer to the exam. So we have to go back to our essay writing skills. We have to go back to those things that we used to do a while ago. And when you get closer to the exam, you have the stress of everything banking up on you, but you can't lose the faith now. Remember, he that begins good works in you is capable of seeing those works to completion. Everything that you have dreamed for yourself, you can all realize all of them, every single thing. You can be your the first of your family to finish school. You can be the first of your family to excel at exams. You can be your family's first doctor. You can be your family's first lawyer, entrepreneur, engineer, anything that you dream for yourself, you can do all of it. But all you have to do is be willing to work hard. You gotta be willing to work for something. As much as we have fun in class and as much as we enjoy ourselves, what will last longer is how well you do at your exams. So go practice, write. You have to write your essays. You have to do well. Because at the end, that will live on longer than the fun we have in class, right? So please, let's go back to the drawing board as we go closer to the exam, closer to May 12th. Grade ones, yes, are important, but sometimes we just want to pass. And just make sure you pass, please.
Excuse me, anyone. Can you please read after Eric Blair to show? Because I'm not getting to see the bottom part.
This theme, this theme.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. This is the airline.
God bless you with the ugliness that you're going on with, but we ain't talking about that tonight.
After exam, when I jump out,
Yeah. You don't talk about my ugliness. You gotta talk about your hairline.
Hello, leave my hairline recovering.
Covering where?
You know, I got story to talk about you and the whole YouTube listening, so you better behave yourself.
yeah, them, you are broken.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Thank you.